Title: Don't pay me for months? Enjoy unburying your car. Edit: This lady was around her mid-30s and definitely did not have dementia. She also called his phone and left an angry message after he did it, so she did recognize him. I understand this might not have been the most legal and ethical way to deal with it, but revenge is revenge. My stepdad works as a landscaper and does snow in the winter. He had many clients in one townhouse community. One time he had this lady who was a regular client at first, always paid on time, always polite, etc. However, over time, the lady started to get slow with her payments, and wasn't home when he was there. Eventually she fell behind, and when my stepdad went to collect, she had the audacity to say, "I have never seen you in my life." In a stern voice, not acting like someone with dementia or someone who genuinely didn't recognize the person. Afterwards he asked his other clients in the neighborhood about her and they all said she was insane. Cue the revenge. Fixed it. My stepdad makes it a point to recruit both of her neighbors as new clients. My stepdad comes back with his friend after a 1.5-foot snowstorm. There are 2 driveways to the left and right of hers, with the way the townhouses are set up. He instructs his friend to blow every inch of snow from both driveways directly onto hers and they get to work. They purposely did this when she was home, and she came out livid. Title: Dump out my laundry. Enjoy being pretty in pink. This happened in the early 90s. I was living in my first apartment and working a crummy fast food job. One Monday I realized I forgot to wash any of my uniforms over the weekend with just enough time to get it done before I had to leave for my shift. The laundry room was deserted and most of the machines were available because my shift started at 1 p.m. It was a trashy complex, so ordinarily I stayed and watched my clothes, but I figured no one would bother to steal KFC uniforms, so I walked to my unit to get a book. When I got back 5 minutes later, someone had pulled all my wet uniforms out of the washing machine and dumped them on the disgusting floor, then put a load of men's hospital scrubs in instead, stealing my 75 cents and soap. My first impulse was to reverse what the jackass did and confront him, but there was no guarantee he'd return before I had to leave for work. Instead I wrung out my soapy laundry and carted it back home while fuming. I rinsed out a single shirt and pair of pants, then headed back to the laundry room to dry them. And brought along a special gift for hospital douche. I haven't seen anyone wearing white scrubs in a long time, but this was nearly 30 years ago and that's what color HDs were. One of my store's managers gave the crew dollar store Christmas stockings with candy in them the previous year, and I still had mine in a drawer. They were incredibly cheaply made and such an incandescently loud red they almost glowed. One of my coworkers' boyfriend cluelessly tossed her stocking into a load of socks, turning the whole lot bright pink. Her joke at the time was that all his socks in the load became her socks because he refused to wear them anymore. Everyone reading this figured out paragraphs ago exactly what I did with that stocking. A single polyester fast food uniform dries very quickly, so I already had it out and in a garbage bag before the wash cycle hit spin. I sat reading my book while praying to the sky HD would arrive before I had to leave, which he did shortly after the cycle ended. I pretended to read as he opened the lid and started cursing while removing pink garment after pink garment from the machine. Halfway through unloading he got my attention and asked if I'd seen anyone around that machine. I told him I hadn't, but that I'd only been there a few minutes. I asked him why. Was something wrong? He pointed to the Barbie pile and said, "This." I asked him what was wrong with his wife's clothes and he said no, they were his. I affected being slightly taken aback and asked why he went with that color, to which he angrily replied that he hadn't and they were white. Having a friendly person innocently rubbing his situation in was making him madder by the second, so I told him there might have been something red left in the bottom of the machine by the last user and offered sympathy. He grunted in reply and returned to pulling scrubs out. A couple seconds later he found the now faded and blotchy stocking and completely blew his stack. He yelled "No, I know what fucking happened," and launched into a raging tirade about what he was going to do to that fucking fucker. I expressed dismay at it being deliberate sabotage and left him furiously throwing scrubs into a dryer while I walked out shaking my head that someone could do something so low. The complex had a laundry room for each cluster of buildings and my place was equidistant from 2 of them. I switched rooms and never saw the guy again, which is a shame because I'd have killed to see him walking or driving around in one of his beautiful new outfits. Title: It was in my name winking face, so I recently got out of a really toxic relationship, and he was a jerk right from the start. Suddenly didn't want to send 50% of the rent money, and he had apparently thrown out the lease and email with the lease in it, so he could contact our landlord. That's fine, it can happen to the best, I guess. Though when I asked about bill money, he said that I would have to pay for it because everything was in my name. That's $575 I would have to pay by myself. Sure, okay, smiley face. Okay, that'll do. What I figured out was that I didn't really have to pay a cent. Because of a misunderstanding with some of the places, and overpriced heat, I earned $300+ instead. Title: A grown man violently yelled at an old lady because she took a parking space she wanted before peeling out into the spot next to her. He continued to go inside and slam our produce around. Edit: He wanted, instead, or she wanted, in the title. They're both customers. I collect shopping carts and return them to the pickup spot. I was getting shopping carts from the parking lot so I'm able to see a lot of the crazy stuff that happens. He wouldn't leave her alone as she sat in her car, clearly startled by the guy. He kept pointing and getting close to her car and yelling profanities and calling her names. Once inside, my managers told him to shop like an adult or to find a new place to shop. This wasn't enough for me. I noticed he parked by one of the cart corrals, metal things in parking lots where the used carts go. I noticed the corral he parked to was a little uneven, so I decided to fix it. Only issue was that the man's car was right on the line, so unfortunately I had to scoot the cart corral right next to his driver door. Enough room to walk to the door but not enough to actually get in. I continued getting carts, and when I saw him coming out I hid behind an empty car about 40 feet away and watched through the windows. He wasn't happen. Slammed his groceries into his car from the passenger door and then crawled in from the back passenger door. He could have just slid the corral over, but he did it all the hard way for some reason. He then peeled out, pulled back in the parking space, got out and looked around once more before getting back in and driving away fast as heck. I later saw the lady and she said thanks for checking on her, but she will be fine. She was super old and clearly startled though. Title: Give me food poisoning, you about to have a shitty time. My Uncle Dave once gave me bad food which I ate and which I got food poisoning. All because he hated my mom for not giving him money. Dave was also our neighbor, and as revenge I would go to either his front or backyard and leave my diarrhea there. He blamed me, but everyone else just believed it was either him and his drunk adventures or his badly behaved dogs. One night, while he was gone for a booze party, I went to his front yard with some of my cousins and had my last diarrhea-fueled shit. Warning, it's about to be gross. I bent down and just let loose. First it was just spurts of hot brown water, but then it became yellow sauce, then brown sludge, then back pudding, and then solid. I probably shat a good amount because I was straining myself for a good few minutes. After it was done, my cousins took my prone but satisfied body home and washed me, and we went to bed. Several hours later, I hear Dave yell and swear to the high heavens. Everyone in the neighborhood came to see this drunk asshole crawling in shit. He was drunk but way more angry, swearing at me and telling everyone I did this. But my grandma came to him and told him he should stop drinking if he's gonna shit himself and blame a kid for it.